Since the presidential election, Republicans across the country have introduced hundreds of proposals to change voting laws, arguing that changes are needed to restore trust in the election system. Now, in Arizona alone, Republicans in the House and Senate have introduced nearly 24 measures, including 2 that would impose new restrictions on Arizona's vote-by-mail system and 1 that would limit its voting window. But critics say these measures impinge on people's right to vote by making it harder to cast your ballot. Joining us now for more on those proposed measures in Arizona is the Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs. Secretary Hobbs, good to see you. We appreciate your time today. You know, Republicans say these bills are just housekeeping measures to guard against fraud, but you and other Democrats say they're damaging to voting rights. Can you explain that?
Sure. First of all, I would say that none of these bills that are being proposed have been actually vetted with election officials and actually are solutions that we've put forward to help improve election administration or security. And I think they're also wanting us to embrace this false premise that you can either have access or security, but not both. And that is patently untrue. And we proved that with the last election. We had widely expanded voter access, working to ensure that voters could vote in the pandemic. And we saw the most secure election in our country with widespread turnout. And so their premise is just absolutely false.
It appears that the Supreme Court will sustain other Arizona voting limits, including requiring election officials to discard ballots cast at the wrong precinct and criminalizing collecting ballots for delivery at polling places. What's your stance on that?
Well, my office argued opposing the state's position to uphold those laws. And when I was in the legislature, opposed the ballot collection bill. But my greater concern is not just the ruling and how it will impact Arizona, but the arguments that were made that would weaken Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and make it much harder for anyone to, in the future, challenge these kind of discriminatory laws in the courts. And that will have an impact across the country, and especially in light of the vast number of bills that we're seeing right now that would roll back voting access. That's very concerning.
Arizona State Representative John Kavanaugh tried to sum up this debate, saying that Democrats are willing to risk fraud to get as many people as possible voting. Republicans are more concerned about fraud, so they're okay with security measures that limit voting because, and I quote here, everybody shouldn't be voting. Now, on retrieving unreturned ballots or getting people registered, he says, quote, if somebody is uninterested in voting, that probably means they're totally uninformed on the issues. Quantity is important, but we have to look at the quality of votes as well. What do you say to that?
Well, I think it's a pretty elitist view on who he thinks should be voting. And of course, it's just the people that are going to vote for him. Now, I said a few minutes ago that, we don't have to make this choice between access and security, that we do have both and we can continue to have both. And it's not, all these things that they're throwing out there to justify this legislation. They're the ones who perpetrated the lies following the election, many of these elected officials who are now proposing these bills. And so, they're the ones who helped to break the trust. And these bills are not the way to fix it.
I want to talk about schools, too, because some Arizona schools are opening this week for the first time in a year. An executive order by the governor accelerated that reopening timeline. So why is now the time for students to get back to the classroom?
Well, I think, you have many parents that have been struggling for the last year, having their kids at home and trying to balance their educational needs with their work needs. And it's been really tough for parents across the state. I think that leaders' continued focus, especially Kathy Hoffman, the superintendent of public instruction, has been about being able to do it safely when teachers can be vaccinated and the parents of many of these students are able to be vaccinated to limit the spread. And I think, I haven't paid as close of attention to the whole what's happening right now, but I'm really hoping that is the case and that schools are going to be able to reopen safely as parents and teachers and grandparents are getting vaccinated.
And starting April 1st, anyone in Arizona who's over the age of 45 will be eligible for vaccination. How do you think the vaccine rollout is going there so far?
Well, I think it was a little bit of a bumpy start, and I think we kind of saw that across the country. Part of that was that the federal government didn't really have a plan. That is changing now with wider access to the vaccine, it being more widely available, and working out the kinks and the bugs in the system of how people register to get the vaccine. I think that is definitely improving. And I'm seeing right now, it seems like most people who want it are able to get it.
All right. Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.